gotta go to work, 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 and my body do the work, 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 work. We can work tomorrow. We can work tomorrow.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. So first, want to give a big welcome to all of our guests and customers tonight. So tonight is our sort of first official open house with customers. We've had a couple inaugural events here internally, but want to welcome you all to our new home. So thank you for joining us. And tonight we've got a very special guest. So Jason is here from the Urban Land Institute. He is the CTO and SVP there, and he's going to be doing an interview with Lawrence Coburn, our CEO. So I want to thank you again. Afterwards, please enjoy more drinks and food. We've got lots. So thank you. Guys, come on up.
Check. So Jason, thanks a lot for joining us. And so Jason, very early adopter of DoubleDutch, very ambitious in how he uses DoubleDutch and particularly how he integrates DoubleDutch data into other systems over at ULI. So it's great to have you here. But before we get to like the work stuff, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. I mean, like Lawrence said, it's been about 2.5 years, going on 3 years. So we were a very early adopter. It's really changed the game for us. Before we get into that, I'm Jason Ray. I'm the CTO of ULI, the Urban Land Institute. I have 6 children. I have 5 boys and 1 girl. So they certainly keep me busy. When I'm not focusing on family and kids, my love is technology. And it's really connecting people, utilizing technology to really, connect people in ways that, they wouldn't normally be able to do. And I think DoubleDutch has played a big piece of that. I also have 1 dog, so.
So you're saying you have a lot of free time?
Yeah.
So you mentioned to me earlier today that you guys have 25 tech vendors that you work with, and probably 90% of them are out here. Tell us about how you sort of evaluate new tech, the role it plays in pushing ULI's business objectives forward, these kinds of things.
Yeah, so we have 25 vendors. I would say 85% of them are actually here in San Francisco, which is great. So this is really my second home. I've been coming here 4 times a year, 3 times a year for the past many years. Hannah Deal, who's sitting in the 3rd row, is our new customer success, head of customer success. And we really organize everything around services. So we have an internal service delivery catalog. One of those services is the DoubleDutch event management service. And it really allows all of our district and national councils. We have 65 offices globally. It's a free service to them. Whether it's a cocktail reception, a large event, a small event, doesn't really matter. We allow them to instrument and really automate that event utilizing the DoubleDutch app. DoubleDutch has always been on top of my list. We're meeting with 5 different vendors this go around. And I was sure to leave a lot of time for DoubleDutch.
Nice. Well, we appreciate that. So getting back to so corporate picks up the bill for all of your vendors or some of your vendors, and then what is the business case that you need to make to your boss to get your boss to sign off on the budget to enable your entire global organization to use these different tools that you've vetted?
Yeah, so a lot of it, 95% of our services are centralized around our headquarters, and they're offered for free to our franchise locations, if you will. We call them district councils. And for us, when it comes to the sales pitch, there's 2 things that we really do. We sell memberships. We have 38,000 members globally, and ensuring value of membership is really important to us. But we also throw events. So it's membership and events. That's where DoubleDutch really comes in. It allowed us to really quantify to our exhibitors, to our sponsors, what are they getting for being an exhibitor or being a sponsor. Before DoubleDutch, we were with Core Apps, and Core Apps was really kind of just a brochure, if you will. So really the first time I met Lawrence, we were pretty aggressive about getting off of Core Apps onto the DoubleDutch platform because we realized that it was really a game changer for us. It would allow us to quantify what do our sponsors really get for sponsoring one of our events, whether it's a large event or a small event.
So let's take it back to the event level for a second. So you're a large association, 38,000 members globally. And congratulations on hitting the 38,000 point. I know that's been a goal for a while. So how does events fit into that? So your revenues come from your events themselves, but also from your membership. What role do the events play in generating revenue, but also driving membership retention?
Yeah, so for events for us, it's a big opportunity for our members to connect with other members. So just a little bit, let's step back a little bit about the Urban Land Institute in general. We're the world's largest multidisciplinary land use organization. So we have premier architects, we have interior designers, we have urban planners, you know. And the reason they're part of ULI is they want to come together and share ideas and really talk about projects they're working on and really do business as well. So for us, the DoubleDutch app has allowed us to really connect members in new ways. To extend the event, we always launch the app, 10 days in advance on average, really extend the event. As well as give us new opportunities to entice our sponsors to spend more, as well as enhancing the value of our membership.
How do you think about, we talked a little bit about this concept of a 365-day event where the event never ends and the conversation just keeps continuing. Why is that an important concept for you?
Yeah, for us, I think I coined the phrase kind of life is an event, and we really believe that. All of our members, they want to connect constantly, just constantly. So we've really invested a lot of time and energy around how do we connect people between physical meetings, and really, kind of where DoubleDutch is going in terms of topics and channels and being able to move away from only focusing on physical interaction, which is always going to be the most important, right? But also extending those conversations to where people can connect and convene at any time, day or night. We're a global organization. We're throughout Asia, US, and Europe. And being able to connect people from different continents, regardless of the time shift, is really important. So perpetual events for us is a big part of the game. On that note, we're doing 3 events per day, every day. So it's already turned into kind of a perpetual event for us scenario anyways. But being able to—
So how many events is that? 3 times?
It's about 1,000 a year. Yeah. Sorry. No. Yeah, so we were already thinking along the lines of, how do we continue the fun? How do we continue the knowledge sharing, and DoubleDutch is going to become more and more a central piece of that puzzle for us.
So what's the demographic of your membership? And are they the right demographic, whatever that means, to engage like in a mobile social application? Are they comfortable with that?
It's interesting. I mean, like any traditional association, a lot of the leadership is more senior in their career. But when we view kind of our prospects, who are we targeting? We try to target millennials. We try to target folks that are going to be with us for the long haul. We try to target folks that are really starting off in their career, and they're going to be part of our association for the next 30 years. So a lot of our product dev and a lot of our thought is really millennial driven. And it's really important to us that we have a member for 30 years. We don't just target people that are only going to be around for 5 years and retire. Yeah.
That makes sense. So do you mind telling the story about how you met DoubleDutch and kind of like what caught your interest in these kinds of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, at the time, I've been with the Urban Land Institute for 3 years. When I joined, we were a solid core apps shop. And I realized at the time that I didn't want to just have a brochure via an app, just so we could get away from a paper brochure. So I started doing some research, identified DoubleDutch, met Lawrence at the DC Roadshow, immediately cornered him around the billiards table in the pub that we were at and said, look, we got to strike a deal. And I think we struck a deal in about a week, tested it out. And that's the beautiful thing about DoubleDutch is you can try it out. You don't have to make a full commitment. Tried it out for a couple of events. People loved it. The app was fun. It changed the game for us. And then the rest is history.
Yeah, no, and I remember this vividly. So we do this roadshow. I think we're doing 7 cities this year. And it's interesting for us because the event is the product. So we have this event, we have customers up there speaking, and we have some vision and some roadmap stuff, but we're also integrating the app into everything that we do. So this is like how DoubleDutch uses DoubleDutch, right? And so I'm up there, I'm giving the vision like sort of speech, and we have the second screen, we call it the game day going in the background. Everyone's participating, and it's really become this experience that is not just physical. There's this software element of a physical world experience, and these guys get it. And they literally chased me off the stage and cornered me and like, how does this work? How much does it cost? I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's like, hi, I'm Lawrence. Nice to meet you. But it was cool. It was cool to see the vision out of these guys. And Jason was telling me that when he joined ULI, they were coming off the housing crash, so the real estate crash of 2008 and beyond. And his job was to instrument their whole world. So, which is like, he's not an events guy necessarily, although events is a big part of their business. He's a technology guy. So he has brought in all of these systems and woven them together to instrument their business so they understand what's working, what's not working, and all these kinds of things. So really just impressive stuff you guys do.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we had a plan of action many years ago. It was kind of instrument, automate, capitalize. And I've written blog posts about it since, but we really believed in that many years ago. We've just hit our quota of 38,000. That's something that we've been striving for a long time. So it's been a wild 3 years, but we really have been able to take a company that was struggling to some degree. We were coming off of the housing crisis, and we've been able to rebuild it to beyond the levels that we've ever achieved globally.
So your work is done. You can kick back.
Right,
relax.
exactly.
So let's talk about data. And so you guys are doing 3 events a year. You've done your best to
3 events per day.
I'm sorry, 3 events a day, 1,000 per year. Little difference there. And so obviously understanding kind of the ROI for all of that spend is a big deal. How do you guys go about doing that? And how did you do it before DoubleDutch? How do you do it after DoubleDutch? Where can we still improve? These kinds of things.
Yeah, I think before DoubleDutch, it was really a shot in the dark. When it came to discussions, around marketing, it was always, well, we think this or we think that. Now the discussion has fundamentally changed. We can say we know this and we know that. So data for us has been a big deal. We've really pushed the envelope. We're a big partner with Domo. We were one of the first Domo adopters. I love the company. We've even began to export raw data into Domo from the agenda builder.
Does everyone know who Domo is? You guys familiar with Domo? So quickly want to give some background.
Yeah, Domo is business intelligence in the cloud. So it's a zero footprint BI cloud-based product. Allows you to take any type of data and build meaningful charts and graphs to drive your business. Yeah. For us, it's data is a big piece of it. At first we thought, okay, this is going to be very retroactive. We're going to be able to take a look at the data, who did what, make the next meeting better. And then we very quickly realized that we could actually harvest data from the app because we're launching it 10 days in advance before the event even starts. So we've started harvesting a lot of the agenda builder data and comparing that to our room schedule and very quickly realizing which rooms are overbooked, because you never want to have an overbooked room. That's like the worst thing in the world, and we're able to make decisions before the event starts, during the event, as well as retroactively after the event.
Yeah, Jason had told me that he was importing our data into Domo and was showing me how he could basically cut different views of our data in real time, just create these different charts and graphs and share those charts and graphs and kind of understand beyond what the DoubleDutch CMS is possible, what is possible within the DoubleDutch CMS at this moment. And so it's kind of set us off as DoubleDutch as a whole way of thinking about what other systems can be used to visualize DoubleDutch data and how do we need to hook into other systems to complement what you're learning about your customers from other channels. How can DoubleDutch's data enhance that or augment that? And these guys were doing it. They just went off and did it without talking to us, and they just used other systems, and so pretty impressive stuff. Okay, so as you think about the features that you like and use, what are some of the ones that stand out? And why don't you give us the one feature that we don't have that you would like to see? And we're not making any promises up here about building that feature and solution. We're not doing any roadmap stuff today. But tell us about what you would like to see.
Yeah, I think one of the features that intrigued me that never quite worked out, but it was okay, was headcount. That was super cool idea. We realized very early on that if you had rooms that were close to one another, then the Bluetooth signal would bleed from one room to the other. So it wasn't all that.
Do you want to explain what it was? What headcount?
Yeah, headcount was it was built into the app on the admin portion of it, where you could really determine how many people were at your session, and you could see how many people hadn't checked in. You could encourage them to check in, and you could send them push notifications to say, hey, check in because we're going to send you stuff afterwards or whatever. So yeah, that was a feature that we had high hopes for. I think moving forward, being able to focus more on QR codes, something that's a bit more specific and, targeted towards that individual person. That for us is really exciting. I told Nick last week, the one feature that we really want is I'd love to have that QR code in Passbook. So it's on the lock screen of your iPhone so that it's super easy to scan people in. Because I'm having these visions of having like lines of people trying to get in, me talking to them about, well, could you load up the app and could you, click here and there. So I think, the one feature that I would really love is the QR code on the lock screen. Yeah.
That's a good one. We got that, Lucian? Yeah, okay. So we just launched the sort of session attendance tracking via scan.
Yeah.
So
yep. Super exciting. That's really, really exciting. Yeah.
It's never enough. It's never enough. You launch it, and you want one more thing. Got it. Okay, let's switch it up a little bit. So you have 11,000 Twitter followers. Anyone in the room have more than 11,000 Twitter followers? Okay. Laura Powell, no? Okay. So how did that happen?
It just happened over time. I mean, I've been on Twitter for about 3 years. I wasn't an early adopter by any means. I just share, about my life. Before joining ULI, I was immunizing children throughout the developing world. Worked in Bangladesh, or worked in Rwanda, Vietnam, and otherwise. So I think, over time, I continue to visit those countries. I continue to be involved in that in the global health arena. And I think people have really taken kind of a liking to that. So I suspect people are following me for philanthropy, but also for technology. And I think the two go hand in hand. And I've really invested my career on both.
Can you tell us more about Vietnam Relief Services? So Jason, in all of his spare time, he runs an aid organization targeted towards Vietnam, and he spends time over there every year, and it's fully staffed by volunteers. But why don't you give us the background?
Yeah, so I ended up spending a lot of time in Vietnam. My first experience was there about 7 years ago. I was working for a Bill and Melinda Gates Initiative, and I was the founding CTO of an organization that focused on immunizing children. So I'm a big believer in global health. And I remember I had a weekend, and I didn't have anything going on. So I said, well, what am I going to do? I'm in Hanoi. It's a very metropolitan area, there's a lot going on, but I want to get out and I want to see what Vietnam's all about. And it was the first time I'd been to Vietnam. So I got a motorbike with a guy actually that was working with me at the time. And we rode for about 6 hours from Hanoi out into the middle of nowhere, just as far as we could go before we had to refuel. And we got to a little village called Cao Cai. Cao Cai was very underserved part of Vietnam. And the way they embraced me into the community really profoundly affected me forever.
So you got involved?
I got involved. Yeah, I started Vietnam Relief Services about 7 years ago. And we've built so many libraries I can't keep track. So it's health and education. Yep.
Good stuff. You deserve every one of those 11,000 followers. All right, so let's take it back to events. And so let me try and give you an idea about how ambitious and creative these guys are on the technology side. So at the events that these guys throw, again, 3 a day, at many of those events, Jason can't be at all of them, right? He can't go to 3 events per day around the world. So what does he do? He sends a robot. They have a rolling robot with a video screen of Jason where you can talk to him, you can interact with him, and that robot is sort of rolling around. I don't think it does stairs yet, right? Is that right?
Not very well. Yeah,
not very well.
We've tried it; didn't work out.
But tell us about robots and events.
Yeah. We've partnered with a company called Robotics, and we've had. I try to attend via robot. We've had what we call app ambassadors via robot. The craziest event was in Tokyo. The Japanese love robots. I think everybody knows that. And the photo ops with the robots were unbelievable. And while we were doing that, at the same time, we were talking about, we call it the ULI Events app, powered by DoubleDutch. And download the app, try it out. This is what you can do. So it's really served a dual purpose. And we've also put iBeacons on the back of robots. So when the robot rolls by, you get a notification in the app, hey, there's a robotic app ambassador nearby. go and ask it a question about where to download the app, stuff like that.
Have you thought about having a drone hovering over the robot as it's rolling?
Not
through
yet. That's the next step, right? Maybe.
Maybe some augmented reality glasses on
Maybe.
the robot.
Absolutely.
Okay. No, really cool stuff. So as you, and I know you guys try, like one of the things that's cool about events, especially when you throw a lot of events, is that it's a great petri dish. You can try different stuff at different events and you can see what works and what doesn't work. And you guys are among the most ambitious that I know in terms of trying new stuff.
I appreciate that.
As you think out 2, 3, 4, 5 years, things are moving so fast. There's so many macro trends. There's IoT, there's drones, there's VR, there's AR. You can almost make the case that all of these macro trends are going to hit us. They're going to hit the event space because it's such an unusual situation with a high density of connected users together in the same building at the same time. How do you see that playing out? Like what macro trends are you most excited about that you see changing the game?
I'm most excited about technology kind of fading away into the background. Right now you still have to kind of think about it. You download the app, you try it out, you do different things. I think once technology turns into kind of magic, that's where the future is for us. So you're interfacing with technology, whether it's the DoubleDutch app or otherwise, and it's really enhancing your life. It's establishing connections that you normally wouldn't have gotten. It's really making things easier or more memorable for you. So I think it's exactly that. It's technology being able to fade into the background and be part of our lives.
And what does that look like from a hardware or software perspective? Give us some crazy sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, crazy sci-fi stuff. I think the next big thing is going to be artificial intelligence. And I don't mean kind of robots. I think robots will get here eventually. I think Siri on steroids. I think being able to interact and have feelings for artificial intelligence, probably through an earpiece or just like Amazon Echo or otherwise, but more than just asking Amazon Echo to reorder more coffee for you. It'll be being able to have meaningful conversations and actually potentially have empathy for artificial intelligence. I think we're maybe 5 years away from that, and I think it's going to get really weird really quick once you feel for artificial intelligence.
Does anybody have an Amazon Echo in the room? See a couple hands. Do people know what it is? So we have one, and I think the most powerful thing is just how good the voice recognition is. That if you want to hear a song, like I'm sitting in my room, I want to hear a song. 2 options. You can say, Alexa, play me, I don't know, a song, or you can take out your phone and you can unlock it and you can open up Ardio or Sonos and you can search for the song, and it's not even close. Like the voice it works every time. Unlike Siri, it works every time, and they've been more focused than Siri, so they didn't have to solve
Amazon's
everything.
killing it. They really are. Yeah.
And so they're starting to roll out accessories for Alexa, which is the name of the entity. And so you can order an Uber, you can turn your heat up or turn it down, and you can see they are making a play that this should not be your remote control for the world. It should be your voice, which is more invisible. It's more invisible than going like this, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. And I think we're just starting to see artificial intelligence begin to become creative. IBM has really pioneered the space. IBM's Watson now creates artwork. It'll recommend recipes for you based upon what it thinks humans should like, based upon bitter and sweet and salty and this kind of stuff. So I think we are at the very beginning of this curve, and I think it's really going to change for us very quickly.
What do you think about augmented reality? The classic case is like, you're standing at a networking event like this, and like you're kind of running blind. You don't know who people are. The name tags maybe have their name, but not other stuff that you would need to know. What do you think about some sort of overlay that just shows you who you're talking to?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely in the future as well. I don't know if it'll look like Google Glass. I think that was an interesting experiment. That being said, I suspect that, right now there's only so much you can remember, just people's names. When was the last time that you met them? What did you talk about? If there was a artificial entity telling you these things before you approach the person, it would really add to that discussion. It may involve some embarrassment. God forbid you call somebody the wrong name or something like this, right? So I think that there's a lot of value in augmented reality in general. I think the first stage of that will be more audio-based.
Yeah.
But I think Google, they were just a little bit ahead of the market, if you will. But I think it'll eventually catch up to where augmented reality becomes a really important piece of it.
Yeah, there's a computer science teacher who's also a sci-fi author named Werner Vinge, and he writes about the moment that AR takes off is the moment that Google Glass gets into the contact lens. So if you can interact without basically freaking people out with a recording light right here, that's the moment that's going to become invisible and more natural. So
I totally agree with that. And I think the first phase of that is, again, feeding into your ear the information that you need, with kind of, 5 years after that, potentially being contact lens or otherwise potentially.
what do you think about hybrid events? I know you guys throw big international events and you have 38,000 members, and you're not going to get 38,000 people to go to an event anytime. Have you thought about the event where there's 1,000 people on the ground, but maybe there's 10,000 people participating remotely? Have you guys run anything like that?
We have. In fact, we're partnered with Blue Jeans to do that, utilizing their primetime product. Yeah, I think that, an event has to make sense for the person that you're catering to. Not everybody's going to want to go to an event. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of events out there. Some people still have interest in attending, but they don't want to do it in person, or they can't travel, family reasons or otherwise. So yeah, I think that hybrid events are really higher on our radar. I'm glad you mentioned it, actually. And I think companies like Blue Jeans that are really launching products that it's not webcasting and it's not kind of grassroots like Periscope, or Meerkat or otherwise. It's really a professional experience, and you can kind of quantify people attending your event virtually. Certainly give them a discount, but really, drive these type of hybrid scenarios. We're talking about that a lot, actually, internally. Yeah.
Do you guys all know Periscope and Meerkat and these guys? And has anyone read The Circle? The Circle? Dave Eggers, couple hands. So Dave Eggers actually is based in the Mission District, right, like a mile away. He wrote a book 2 years ago called The Circle, where there's a company like Google that releases this cheaper than dirt piece of hardware that is just a all the time, always on streaming video piece of hardware. And it's you can connect to different pieces of hardware all over the world. And suddenly, what happens to society when everything is being recorded all the time, and what are all the social impacts of that? And I see events as sort of the bleeding edge for where some of these things are going to manifest itself, because the live experience, the closest way we have today to capture that is video. And as good as Blue Jeans is, it takes a professional or someone on the clock to run all that, and you're not recording the party after hours or whatever, probably for good reason. But if you open it up to everyone, then suddenly you get cameras at all angles.
Yeah, I think you do. And I think it's changing what is an event. I mean, I think we could start there, right? Is an event, 500 people or more? Is this an event? Is a 2-person meeting an event, right? So I think that
this is an event.
This is an event. Okay, all right. So I think there's a lot of discussion around kind of what is an event. We started off with the large events, of course. But, we're meeting with Dominic and others to try to talk through, well, how do we do more events, and how do we instrument more events? And is a 500-person cocktail reception an event? Absolutely. But maybe a 25-person high-profile meeting is also an event that we want to instrument. So there's a lot of discussion about what is an event and which ones do you want to instrument. I'd love to instrument all of them. And I think that the perpetual event scenario is really moving that direction.
And I think we need to listen to that from a business model perspective, because you're probably not going to spend what you spend on an app that people have to download for a 2-hour cocktail party. It doesn't make sense. So
exactly.
The architecture has to change, the pricing model has to change. And so I think we're hearing those signals that we're getting close to the case for sort of more of a universal license where you can run it. You can just run it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of it is the formality. Events used to be a very formal kind of occasion. The reason I love San Francisco is I can come here, I can wear my blue jeans, everything's cool. You have an open conversation. On the East Coast, it's a bit more proper. I'll wear kind of a blazer and stuff like that. But the events in general are becoming more informal, whether it's East Coast or West Coast. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to instrument smaller events that are less formal and still provide value to people.
All right, so let's open it up. I mean, you guys heard it from Jason. You guys have a guy on stage here that has probably tried more crazy stuff at events than anybody I've met. What questions do you have for Jason? Annie.
Jason, do you have exhibitors and sponsors at your events? And how do you think about connecting those to your members for value?
Yeah, we have both. We have exhibitors and sponsors, and we have exhibitors that are also sponsors. So it's kind of a bit of a mix. But I think, sponsors have always been the hardest to kind of appeal to. A lot of them are still coming from the mindset that if I sponsor your event, I'm going to get my logo on your brochure, right? And I'm going to get kind of, on the cover of the brochure. I'm going to get, my logo of this size or whatever it may be. So working with them to show them that it's more about how many people see your logo, how many people pick up the phone and call you, how many minutes are people, kind of viewing your content. So this has been a bit of a conversation. I think this is somewhere where DoubleDutch could really help, is really helping us change that paradigm. It's really a paradigm shift. You're moving from a paper brochure over to a digital product. And it's much more of a Google Analytics scenario than it used to be. So we have both. Sponsors have always been a bit of a challenge. Exhibitors, they get their booth, they're generally pretty happy. But being able to show them, what they can expect in terms of return on their investment has been really important as well.
Can you tell us about your event tech stack? So like everything from Reg to, I don't know, app obviously, to analytics, to polling, to if there's anything else you use.
Yeah, so we're a big NetForum customer. And we're also a big Salesforce customer. So the vast majority of it, when it comes to member registration, we're currently on NetForum. We're moving over to eTouches, which is the world's largest cloud-based event management platform. And then, when it comes to DoubleDutch, it's still relatively manual, but we're working on, again, integrations between Salesforce and DoubleDutch to automate that process. So it's mostly Salesforce, NetForum, DoubleDutch, eTouches.
What's the information from any of your event tech vendors that you would like to see in Salesforce? Can you share anything on that?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's too early.
It's a little bit too early. I mean, we've just finished instrumenting the business globally. So we're now moving into the automate phase. How do we decipher what data we'd like to import into Salesforce? And why are we doing it? Because I'm a big believer that, data is interesting, but it's only interesting if you have a visualization layer where you can really drive the business based off of that data. So we're really going through a lot of internal meetings around what types of data do we want to import and why, and how does it really tell the ULI story?
Yeah, so let me bounce an idea off you, and for the folks in the audience as well. So there's a widget on sales. So we're a Salesforce shop too. We run our whole sales business and a lot of other parts of our business off of Salesforce. There's a widget that we like from Marketo. So if you go to an opportunity record in Salesforce, there's a widget from Marketo called Interesting Moments. And it basically alerts the sales rep if someone that you sent an email to has opened that email. So let's say I blast out an email blast to all of our customers, and Jason opens that email. If I'm looking at the ULI opportunity record in Salesforce, there's this Interesting Moments widget that says, hey, Jason Ray, CTO, just opened up your email. So as a sales guy, that's maybe a signal like, now is not a bad time to call. And so things like that. And so we've been thinking about what would the parallel look like from DoubleDutch. So is it interesting to DoubleDutch salespeople that Ryan just listened to this interview, that he listened to a keynote pitch? Is that an interesting moment? Is it an interesting moment that Brad just visited a competitor's booth? So someone in the space, not necessarily us, but is that a signal of potential buying interest in DoubleDutch? So I think that there's signals that come from events like this that could really make your data set, and not only Salesforce, but also Marketo, really interesting. And I think these are the kinds of things that we're thinking about now as we look to integrate ourselves into the rest of the marketing cloud, sales cloud, and other systems that matter to our customers. How can we pipe back data that really drives business value for you guys? So if you guys have ideas on that, now's a great time to send those across. Brad.
Jason, you're really thinking thoughtfully about the whole 365 and really connecting your users and members. how are you thinking that potentially the app from DoubleDutch can support you after those events where the customer members are coming back to the app to get more rich content or carry on those channels? Things you'd like to see in the app or ways you think the conversation can be enhanced after the event through the app?
Yeah, I think right now, from a retroactive standpoint, we focus a lot on session surveys. It's great to be able to remind people through the app, fill out the survey. It'll allow us to make the next event even better. We try to always extend the app at least 5 days after the event. So again, extending the event for us is a big deal. And we always try to promote the next event. So I think there's a real opportunity to promote. But I think as we move forward, again, moving back to kind of a perpetual event scenario, being able to capture the interest of a prospect at a physical event, and really encourage them to maybe attend another event if they're still unsure whether they want to become a member or not. Continue to show them value, and at some point convert them from a prospect over to a member. And being able to do that with the help of the app, I think is a big deal. Because the worst case scenario for us is we have a prospect on the hook. They attend an event, they love it, but they're not quite sure whether they want to, kind of pull out the credit card and become a member for the year, and then they kind of dwindle away. So being able to continue that conversation 5 days at a minimum after the event, but if possible, indefinitely. That'd be a big deal for us, because some people are a bit more apprehensive to become a full member, and it takes them more than just one event to do so.
That's such an interesting point, that the time, what's magic about events is that they generate this energy and they push people through a funnel, and that there's this window of time after an event that the time is right to strike. And I don't care if it's a sales or a commercial event or a training event or a sales kickoff or a learning event or an onboarding event. There's a window where people are energized and excited and ripe to get the next message.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where technology might be able to help, is like getting the right message to the right people based on the signals that they told you in the app. What is the business outcome that we're trying to get to? And so I think that's a really exciting way to look at it. And I actually think that's where every software system is going, which is you engage people, you get them in, you listen to those signals, and then you find a way to respond to those signals in a way that adds value for those people.
And there's all different types of people. Some people need, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months to decide, what, I want to be a ULI member. And that's cool. We should be able to cater to all different types of prospects.
Yes. Adam.
Yes. So one of the things that I struggle with a lot now is that I feel like to some degree we get focused on like mobile as a platform rather than what it really is just an interface. And I see a future where you don't download apps. There's just different interfaces for the same single source software. But I think the restrictions we see now with the reason why we have downloadable apps, because when like iPhone, the phones first came out, your Wi-Fi your data plans, they couldn't handle live streaming of that stuff. Do you guys foresee, maybe for anyone, you guys foresee a time in the near 3 years in which data and Wi-Fi technology fundamentally is good enough at events where we can really truly have variable interfaces without having to have different pieces of software, so that the data integration becomes much more seamless?
Yeah, that's a profound question. Yeah, that's kind of the difference between kind of a native app versus a hybrid app versus a mobile website, if you will. It's a great question, because I think, at first it was, how do you operate in offline mode? When I'm on an airplane, can I still do stuff? Now that, even airplanes have Wi-Fi, not very good Wi-Fi, but they have Wi-Fi. It's changing the game. So we're expected to be online all the time, and with the advent of 5G, which will do up to 1,000 megabits a second to your mobile, that's going to be crazy, right? So it's, I think that the one piece that's probably going to go away is potentially Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi might go away because everybody will be on 5G. But that being said, I don't know. I think right now, most companies are moving back towards the native app interface, because the interface is so much better. The animations are better. The graphics are better. all the native hooks, what your phone can tell you, maybe based off GPS location, all that kind of stuff is native. Maybe in the long run, potentially. But right now, the tradition is to move back more towards native and move away from hybrid or mobile website. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're starting to see some of that through companies like Snapchat. That's always on. That's as close as we're going to get to kind of always on video amongst friends. Periscope is a bit of a different model, but yeah, it's going to get interesting really quick. Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with React Native, the project came out of Facebook? Is there a DoubleDutch engineer in the house that wants to explain React Native? Sydney, come on, you're on. Yes.
How we're integrating it? Okay. React Native allows you to create like views and like interactions in Android and iOS through like web programming, but it looks native to whatever platform you're on. So I don't know if you've ever seen this in Facebook, but like sometimes if you like look at like one notification, like it'll look, it won't look super native, but it'll be like a full scroll view, and you're like, what is this? This is not what I was expecting. So it's like a little like hacky where, because it is a web view, but it looked like, to first glance, it looks legit. So you just like, you're able to interact with this app and it looks native. So what we're doing with it is we are experimenting with how can we like make what is it like yeah, features. It's been a long day. How can we make features and like A/B testing more quickly, or make new features more quickly and like test it in real time without having to like it takes us about like a month or 2 months to like see a feature from like design to finished development, like probably even longer. App Store reviews, and then like getting clients, and then like getting them to pay us and stuff like that. So like and like contracts and stuff. So how like we're using React Native to do like A/B testing and test new features faster.
I think, and another key, if I might add, is React Native is in JavaScript. So it works across Android or iOS, same code base.
So you write it once. So from an engineering perspective, you write it once and it works everywhere. And
it's huge.
You don't have to get approved by Apple. And it suddenly, like, a feature breaks in the app. Not that this would ever happen to DoubleDutch. We could have a version in React Native that we drop in overnight. We don't have to wait for an App Store approval to fix something critical to the app. So it's I know from our perspective, we feel bottlenecked sometimes by Apple, and that anything you want to change, you got to wait a couple days. And this is instant.
It's totally instant. I think the biggest thing to come out of Facebook in the past 2 years are React Native and Facebook Audience Network. Both of those are just absolutely huge. They're changing the game around app development in general, and React Native is absolutely massive. Yeah.
Good question.
Roxy? I have a question. So obviously event performance and analytics that DoubleDutch provides is a huge component of what we do, and we invest heavily on it. And as an account manager, that's something that I'm pitching to prospects constantly. And so I'm curious to know what an example is of one of the most surprising insights maybe that the app has provided you on the back end, and maybe a concrete example of how you've used that to make your events better year after year.
I think probably the number one is just as basic as session attendance. Being able to quantify who attended what session is probably still number one on the list. There's always sessions that you think are going to be huge, and they always get low attendance. So that's starting out kind of at the 20,000 foot view. Some other more interesting ones. I think being able to quantify what groups interact with which other groups and why are they doing it. Do interior designers interact with architects? They do. There's probably a good reason as to why they do it, because architects design the space, interior designers want to ensure that their stamp is on the space and it looks a certain way. But a lot of that information is it's very interesting, and occasionally we'll get surprised by which types of people like to interact with which types, and how often. What tools are they using in the app to do that? Stuff like that. Yeah.
Great. So I think we're over time. So Jason, thank you very much. I learned something every time I talk to you. So really amazing stuff, and keep pushing us all forward. So we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You don't gotta go to work, and my body do the work, we can work tomorrow. We can work tomorrow.